Yeah.
Sal Paolantonio, ESPN national correspondent covering the NFL for SportsCenter. He is a popular guy, and a special new edition of Sal Pal's successful book, How Football Explains America. You got contributions, conversations, a lot of influences here. Bill Belichick, Vince Lombardi, Paul Brown, Bill Parcells, Joe Namath, and the Manning family. Sal Pal joining us on the program. All right. Let me start with your Philadelphia Eagles. How did we get to this point where story comes out how last year was a mess, and as we move forward, where are we with the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, I think people, Dan, are still trying to figure out the forensics of what happened in 2023. I mean, epic collapse. Never seen anything like it before. What exactly happened? Congratulations to my colleagues at ESPN.com, Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler. I think they did a good job of really uncovering a lot of new information there. But the bottom line is, where does the team go from here, and how do they fix it? How do they repair the relationship between the head coach and the franchise quarterback? It's going to be a fascinating season. As a guy who used to wear number 81 used to say, get your popcorn ready, Dan. Get it ready.
But why the split? Why is it that the head coach and the quarterback aren't on or weren't on the same page at the end of last year?
You know, it looks like it's X's and O's only approach on offense. Jalen Hurts, give Jalen Hurts a little bit of credit here. He's had 5 different play callers in his ear since he became the full-time starter. Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson, and now Kellen Moore, 5 guys. And, in year 2 that they were together, with Shane Steichen calling the plays, they went to the Super Bowl, were 3 points away from beating Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Last year, they made major changes on offense and defense, and the offense didn't evolve, obviously. The proof is in the film study. I'm on the matchup show. We do a lot of film study at NFL Films in preparation for that show. And we also saw it happen in real time. Jalen Hurts brooding on the sidelines, this guy yapping at that guy, guys not wanting to talk to the press after the game because they didn't want to say something they shouldn't. So it happened in real time, and now we're beginning to understand why.
Is Jalen Hurts a great quarterback?
Yes. He's a great quarterback. He's a great quarterback for this time. You were just talking about Justin Fields. Dan, we're in a blitzing league, number 1. 2, Dan, we're in a league where the highest percentage of games ended in 1 score. It's a 1-score league. It's a blitzing league. Your quarterback has to be able to, ski off-piste. He's got to be able to make second reaction throws and second reaction plays. Why do you think Justin Fields is raising eyebrows and wowing people at Latrobe, Pennsylvania at Steelers camp? It's because he can move like Russell Wilson used to be able to move. You just made that comment. That's clear to everybody. You have to have a quarterback to get away from the pass rush. The pass rush has never been more relentless. There's never been more blitzing in the National Football League. The pass rushers have never been at a greater premium. They send waves of bodies after the quarterback. He's got to be able to run in the first quarter and the fourth quarter. You look at these Super Bowls. They're all won in the fourth quarter. Why did the Niners lose in overtime? Because Brock Purdy couldn't get away from Chris Jones.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. The Niners didn't hold up in their pass protection. So, yes, short answer, yes, Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback for this time in the NFL. And he's perfect for what's going on in the league right now.
How does the NFC East play out?
Well, here's an interesting thing about the NFC East, Dan. So the league, because it's a 1-score league, and because teams are overdrafting quarterbacks and missing so much on quarterbacks, we've never had this much upheaval in the NFL. Back-to-back years where you had near 70 different quarterbacks start an NFL game. And now you have a league where in the offseason you had 17 new offensive coordinators 16 new defensive coordinators, 16, half the league, including 4 new defensive coordinators in the NFC East. Now, I've been covering the NFC East for 32 years. I can't remember a time where you had 4 new defensive coordinators in the same division in the NFC East like this. If you're a quarterback, you got to be able to really study film. Cliff Kingsbury just talked about Jaden Daniels really being a film study rat, and the fact that he's very impressed with him in the classroom. And there's a reason for that. He's got Mike Zimmer coming at him. He's got Vic Fangio. He's got a new defense in Shane Bowen in New York. So these quarterbacks in this division have to be ready for anything at all times, all 4 quarters for every week of the season. And I think it's really important right now to have a quarterback in this division who can get out of the way of the rush. And I think that's what sets up the Eagles really well.
We're talking to Sal Paolantonio, ESPN national correspondent covering the NFL, Sunday NFL Countdown and NFL Live, Fantasy Football Now. Tell us a little bit about the book, the special new edition of your book, How Football Explains America.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning the book, Dan. I appreciate it. I sent you guys some copies, and it's still August. Get on the beach and read it. It was really popular when it came out, and the Triumph Books, my publisher, said, hey, let's update it and re-release it. The bottom line is that the book tries to discover how and why the game was created and how it evolved through different cultural influences in the country, the immigrant influence at the turn of the century, the military influence in the United States, African-American culture's influence, the influence of television and the 60s, all through the decades, and how football also influenced those decades and those events. So we try to take a big view of why the game changed and how and why it was created.
Is there kind of an X marks the spot of when football became America's pastime? Can you pinpoint a time, moment, event, year?
People have different answers for that, right? Some people say, Mark Bowden's great book on the Giants and the Baltimore Colts and how much of that was, the signpost to make football a television event. Other people say it was Namath, Super Bowl III, bottom line.
Wow.
To me, it was the Packers in the 60s. The way that Vince Lombardi and Bart Starr, the Green Bay Packers, dominated the game and made it appointment viewing on CBS television right before 60 Minutes, and how, it was just the place you went to see sports, especially the NFL, I think was very, very big. I think that was an important point too.
Yeah, because Joe Namath made it more than just a football game. He's probably the first guy who made it more than just, hey, it's this underdog. Now, you had David versus Goliath. Nobody was giving the AFL credit. Who's this guy? Joe Namath, brash guy, good-looking guy. Now, all of a sudden, it just felt like the groundswell was different than here comes the Packers sweep or Bart Starr to, Boyd Dowler.
No, Namath was super important. I mean, Sports Illustrated is about to put out the 50 most important games in NFL history. And the editors asked me to write the blurb on the first Monday night football game, the Jets versus the Browns with Joe Namath. And the way I wrote the blurb, Dan, I hope the editors don't get mad. I'm giving it away a little bit. I said, wait, what did my old man just tell me? I get to stay up at 9 o'clock and I get to watch NFL football. And oh, by the way, it's the Messiah, Joe Namath, on television, on my television set at night. I get to stay up after the Waltons and watch football. Wow.
But the thing is about Namath, he didn't have a great career, but he went into the Hall of Fame because he won that one game. Because if you look, Lenny Dawson was a better quarterback than Joe Namath. If you look at the numbers, team success, in my opinion. But Joe went in, that game was so important. That's why I think he went into the Hall of Fame, because he beat the Colts.
Sure, it's like saying Jimi Hendrix is a better guitar player than George Harrison, but hey, Harrison goes into the Hall of Fame too. But Namath is the only quarterback to win Super Bowl MVP without throwing a touchdown pass in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, 16-7, the final there.
Yeah.
Yeah, who was it? Matt Snell scored the touchdown.
Matt Snell, correct.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Yeah.
Johnny Sample with those interceptions on the back of the end zone.
Number 24. Yeah, and I always felt bad the impact that had on Johnny Unitas as well, and Earl Morrall, because the Colts were the big bad, but slower. The Jets were sleeker, and I love the AFL. Love the AFL.
Oh God, absolutely loved it. But it's the contrast between Bart Starr. He was John Glenn in a crew cut, and then here comes Joe Namath. And it was like the '60s writ large.
But you have the AFL. The NFL is like the AFL now, just like the NBA is a lot like the ABA was. So these secondary leagues, or you're not as good as us, they ended up adopting a lot of that. And if you watched the AFL, it was a passing league. They were up and down the field. It was great.
Yeah, I went to the Long Island Arena to watch the Nets, and I could never have my game sort of be like Julius Erving, so I chose Billy Paltz.
Who was he? Thumper? Was that his name? Or Whopper? Whopper, Thumper, Billy Paltz. We'll talk to you during the season. Great to catch up with you again. Good luck with the book. It's How Football Explains America from Sal Paolantonio. Thank you, buddy.
Well, thank you, Dan.
Sal Pal.